Thank you, guys. Let's start. I think I've made you wait too long. So just for a sound check, there is a chat window in your more menu. Can any one of you tell me if you can hear me properly? Anyone? Am I audible? Anyone?
Yeah, Aditya, you are audible. Clear enough.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get started. Please, please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay. So today we are going to be demonstrating the world's first billion qubit quantum computers. And I understand it sounds unbelievable, but it's a very exciting time for us at Automatsky because we developed our quantum computers quite a while ago. And till now, we've been only demonstrating them by invitation. And this week is for the first time when we are demonstrating it publicly. There is no catch to this presentation. We will demonstrate exactly what we have promised you, which is the world's first billion qubit quantum computer. So let's get started. Thank you so much for attending. I am the CEO of Automatsky. My name is Aditya Yadav. Now, due to some unfortunate incidents and distasteful experiences, we have established a new protocol and for webinars from now on. So now please bear with it. It is necessary. Only then we'll explain and show the demos. We have lots to cover. So let's get started. We had some distasteful experiences. So okay, now there is a saying that if you do the same things that everyone else is doing, then at best you can only achieve which everyone else has already achieved. Look at the world around you, whether it is AI, deep learning, machine learning, quantum computing. People, there is a certain theme to what everybody in the world is doing. Everybody is thinking alike. They have made one or two breakthroughs in deep learning based on which they are making incremental developments. Similarly, in quantum computing, you will hear about small incremental improvements over hundreds of papers, etc., various variations. But this phrase makes a lot of sense. If you do what everyone else is doing, at best you can only achieve which everyone else has already achieved. Now, most people in the world have a serious problem in seeing the truth. This, a couple of my IMB professors, which is a management institute in India, used to say quite often in the class. Now, and which is, I think, one of the biggest reasons why nobody can do what Automatsky can do. Because we started in 1990s by reinventing maths, physics, various assumptions, and a lot of theories about the brain, mind, soul, universe, computations, complexity theory, etc. Now, we always start with first principles. We don't build on somebody else's work that much. We might look at something for reference, but we always start with first principles and we end up making breakthroughs almost all the time. And that's the only way we work. This differentiates us from almost anybody else on the planet. And we succeed only because of our rationality and critical thinking. Now, we are not fly-by-night operators. We have a huge history of accomplishments building one upon another. Automatsky is a very well-known and respected name across the world, except probably in India because we don't have a business presence in India. We just have an ODC in India. So we don't talk to too many people in India. But leaving that aside, it took us 25 years to become an overnight success. Automatsky started more than 25 years ago. But I'm sure you don't care about all that. You just want to see the results. So yes. So let's finish with the protocol and get started with the demos. Now, one of the thing is, let's be very clear why we are here today. We are already saying we are here to demo something which is otherwise considered impossible and has never been achieved in the history of mankind. So we are not denying that. That is the very reason we have come together for a demonstration today. That is the entire purpose of this presentation. If your only argument is that it is impossible simply because you can't do it and nobody else in the world can do it, then this presentation is probably not for you. Now, the mandatory protocol elements, Automatsky is under no obligation to provide source code, disclose any of its algorithms, designs, trade secrets or IP, publish research papers, file patents, offer free trials, POCs or pilots, or put anything in the public domain or respond to unsolicited proposals, challenges, partnerships, collaboration requests, etc. We are not obligated to prove anything to anyone or disclose any details about our firm or to explain any of our decisions to anyone or to do anything for free, basically. So if this doesn't work for you, you have to leave this presentation right now. Now, Automatsky is a business entity. It is not a charity. People think that if you're a startup, you are some kids. We are in our mid 40s and 50s, and we are a very serious business firm. We are not a university or a research group functioning under government grants and donations obligated to publish papers and disclose its IP. Automatsky's leadership, engineering, finance, and legal assess and qualify all leads before deciding on any pursuits. And we take business decisions only as per our discretion and best interest. And we are more secretive than Apple or Amazon simply because we have a lot more to lose. We operate in the US, EU, and Canada primarily, and we operate with US business practices, business philosophy, and concepts from US law. We don't have any business presence in India. All we have is an ODC. We are privately held, bootstrapped firm. So money obviously is a huge, huge constraint, preventing us from doing everything we'd like to do. Now, we are not soliciting any investments at this time because of our valuation, which prevents us from accepting petty funds. We are only looking at research grants and sales and collaboration with only the top 10 research organizations in the world. We will record and distribute any and all of our presentations at our sole discretion. Automatsky doesn't get involved with politics, religion, or tolerate any sort of activism within its ranks. If this doesn't work for you, you have to leave this presentation right now. Now, let's get started. Quantum computing, it's complicated. It's really complicated. Quantum computing has more than a 50+ year history. It is based on quantum physics, or in other words, another word for quantum physics is quantum mechanics, which has a 100+ year history. Now, quantum computing is perhaps the most complicated technology in the world today. I mean, people have spent more than $100 billion into it right as of today, all over the world collectively. This is not a presentation about mobile apps, web apps, business apps, SaaS, cloud, or big data. This is extremely complicated, and there is nothing shiny or flashy in these demos. These will be numbers, mathematics. You might feel like bailing out after 10-15 minutes, but please focus and think you are in a gym for the next 30-60 minutes and try to follow what the presenter is trying to say. We'll try to make it as simple as possible without mathematics, equations, or research papers. Now, the protocol for Q&A. You are free to ask questions at any time. Please introduce yourself. Tell us about your educational background, professional experience, your affiliations, your work in quantum computing, achievements for the benefit of the audience. We don't want this to be anonymous. And then and only then ask your question. Please paste your LinkedIn profile link on the chat so that I can add you and verify who you are. And then I will answer your questions at will and as many questions as you want without evading any of them. Now, until that happens, I'm sorry, I will not be able to answer your questions. And obviously, there are no stupid questions. People who generally want to learn, ask very logical questions. It is the so-called self-proclaimed wannabe paper-pushing experts who ask questions with vested interest to troll, to desperately try to prove that they know better or to disrupt proceedings, create nuisance, etc. Now, if this doesn't work for you, this is the part of the protocol from today. You can stay, but please don't speak or ask any questions. Now, Feynman was one of the most famous scientists in quantum computing and in the 20th century. He was very famous for a lot of quotes, and he quoted a lot of things. But he said, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. This actually, and it is confusing what people, conclude from this. What this actually means is, yes, we have the equations for quantum mechanics, we have the wave equations, etc. We know how a quantum system evolves. We know how it more or less works, but we don't know why it works that way and what we can expect from it and how the universe works. Now, Feynman also said that the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. In Feynman's words, to people who think they know everything, I would say, how come you know everything and you have no solution to all the world's problems? If you know everything, then you should be able to solve all the problems. This is a contradiction. The only logical answer to this is that you don't know everything or anything at all. Truth can be really harsh. The world of quantum computing is a really small world and people know each other. There are rarely more than a handful of people who are somewhat experts in quantum computing and quantum physics all over the world, even though every journalist or layman publishes a blog about quantum computing. Now, this session is being recorded and we'll distribute it at our sole discretion. You hereby identify us. Please leave the presentation now if you don't agree to the recording, and think very carefully before acting funny or making a fool of yourself on a global stage. Now, most people think Automatsky is 6 years old at best. It is actually 25 plus years old, and it has existed as multiple legal entities in various geographies. Automatsky is a millennium firm, the only millennium firm in the world today. Automatsky is also the topmost technology firm in the world today with 100 plus millennium inventions across AI, robotics, AGI, deep learning, machine learning, quantum computing, finance, energy, medicine, healthcare, cancer cure, protein folding, deep space travel, complexity theory, theoretical mathematics, environment, etc. You can look at our website. Everything mentioned on the website is the truth. If you have a doubt, you can contact us on info@automatsky.com. Millennium inventions by definition cannot be solved in 1,000 years by anyone, including 100 plus Nobel laureates, 100 million PhDs, MIT, Stanford, IBM, Amazon, Microsoft, and everyone in the world combined in the next 1,000 years. That is the definition of millennium inventions. And Automatsky's purpose is to define the next millennium of mankind. Automatsky is an equity and IP holding company involved with fundamental and applied research. It spins off multiple ventures which conduct actual business. One of our ventures is the circuit-based quantum computers business, and another of our ventures is a drug design and discovery business based on our quantum computing and quantum computers business. Now, in 2014, we made the world's first circuit and gate-based quantum computer with millions of logical qubits. But the problem was it had a complexity of order n cube. Hence, we actually announced only that it could do 2048 or 4096 qubits, because the first problems that everybody was interested in and what we were testing was breaking RSA 2048 cryptography and oracular algorithms. Now, if you realize to break RSA 2048, you require 4096 plus 3 qubits, around 4100 qubits. And that is what we were telling people, and that is what we were very comfortable doing around that range, 10,000, 20,000 qubits on regular infrastructure, because we didn't have any cash. We were bootstrapped, obviously. But very soon, in a couple of months, we created an order n implementation which could do millions of logical qubits on a regular laptop or desktop, and which could do billions of logical qubits and gates on a large scale infrastructure. And order n basically means linear. Now, if someone was willing to wait, it could obviously go to trillions of logical qubits, but by that by itself takes a lot of time to process a trillion gates. But theoretically, it was possible. There were no limitations, because again, it was a linear order n implementation of the world's first circuit-based quantum computer. Now, in summary, in 2014, we created the world's first circuit and gates-based quantum computer, a quantum annealing quantum computer, which some vendors in Canada are selling, an adiabatic quantum computer, which is very similar to quantum annealing, but is more generalized and is a universal form of quantum computing. And Quantum Walks is again a universal form of quantum computing, which we achieved in 2014. But very slowly, we announced their details to the world publicly only in 2017 and 18. Now, the obvious question on everybody's mind is this a simulator or what? Now, I will answer that question right away before the demos. I just have 3 or 4 slides left before the demo. So let's answer that first. Is what we are showing you a simulator? So let's understand this. Everything in quantum computing, when somebody takes a quantum hardware based on electrons or ions, etc., what they are doing is they are simulating quantum properties and attributes by cooling quantum particles to near 0 Kelvin and correcting errors, etc., just to derive the desired quantum behavior for little less than 50 microseconds. Or in case of ion computing, 28 seconds or something like that. Now, in a sense, even if you have a hardware quantum computer, it is basically a simulator. That is what I'm saying. We simulate quantum physics, and Automatsky simulates quantum physics and software running on lots of very expensive and specialized classical hardware. But when people talk about simulators, what they really mean is this. If you have implemented a quantum computer simulator, you would realize that every simulator works by a combinatorial mathematics, by passing all combinations of qubit states through each gate. And these simulators require 2 to the power x computational effort and space, etc. Which is the reason people say that quantum computers cannot be simulated classically. And even on the best supercomputers, you can only simulate 50 qubits. Now, the bottom line definition is, if you are simulating quantum physics, you have a quantum computer. If you are simulating and implementing the combinatorial mathematics behind quantum computations, what you have is a simulator. So what I'm going to show you today is a quantum computer because it implements physics. And I'm going to prove it to you also by the way of a verifiable, assertion. Now, something about quantum supremacy. It is logical to conclude that by the very invention of our universal quantum computers in 2014, which could execute any quantum algorithm or program accurately, we had by definition achieved quantum supremacy in 2014. Though we only publicly announced it in 2018, which was still before everyone else in the world. Now, we didn't realize there was a race for the title and we were busy with our inventions, of which we have more than 100. Only later we realized that top vendors were fighting and arguing, discrediting each other, crying foul, etc. And 3-4 vendors were deciding and claiming the title between themselves and keeping everyone else out by unilaterally declaring them as disqualified. In 2019, there was a claim by a challenger which solved the random circuit sampling problem with 1,113 single qubit gates and 430 double qubit gates in just 200 seconds on their 53 qubit NISQ quantum computer, which otherwise they said would take the biggest supercomputers 10,000 years. Now, we had already solved all the possible problems on our universal quantum computers way back, not just random circuit sampling problem, which has absolutely no practical real world value. But for the same problem, we are going to demonstrate to you today that our quantum computer will take less than 10 seconds. And that too because the initialization of the quantum computer itself takes 7 seconds. And we get perfect solutions for any quantum program always. And that is in pipeline for the demo this evening. Now, let's start with some of the first demos. The first thing that we are going to talk about is quantum annealing. And this is the billion logical qubit gate quantum annealing solution that we have built. Now, what is quantum annealing? I'm going to tell you about it and I'm going to start with the demos. Quantum annealing, by the way, is something that a Canadian company vendor is building quantum computers around and selling them. And that is the only company I know which is selling quantum annealing quantum computers. But now we can safely say that the only quantum annealing quantum computers, only thing that quantum annealing quantum computers do is based on only one problem model, QUBO. What is QUBO? QUBO is quantum unconstrained binary optimization. If only someone could solve that, all hyperbole and marketing jargon aside, QUBO is NP hard. And it is generally accepted that it cannot be solved classically. Also, there is proof in scientific literature, Bennett and Vazirani et al., that NP problems cannot be solved in quantum computers in sub-exponential time either. Classically, only some heuristics like tabu search and approximation algorithms exist for QUBOs. There are some companies which are selling digital annealers to solve QUBO problems, which give fast approximate solutions. But what is a QUBO problem? Now, sorry to jump my own conversation. Now, the bottom line is that we have a deterministic polynomial time solution to QUBO, PUBO, QA, QZO, PUZO, and the Ising problems. This is of order n cube, and it's a deterministic polynomial time solutions to above. Now, I'm sure you will get into a debate about P versus NP and why this is impossible. So we'll just see it working. Okay. Now, let us look at the QUBO formulation. To understand QUBO, you have to take two perspectives. The first perspective you have to take is the mathematical perspective. And the second perspective is that of an energy perspective. And quantum annealing quantum computers implement energy optimization. Now, how does this work? On a quantum annealing quantum computer, you encode your problem in terms of various energies and magnetic field interference between the various variables, etc. And then the quantum computer, quantum annealing quantum computer, does a minimization of the energies, and the ground state or the lowest energy state is your optimum solution. What is the mathematical model behind QUBO? If you have a problem which has an algebraic expression, okay, you have a lot of variables, and all the term in your expression have either one or two variables multiplied by a constant, and these variables can be 0 or 1. So if you look at this line below, 2x0 into x1, it has only two terms of variable x, and 2x0 into x2 plus 2x1 into x2 minus x0, which has only one term of variable, minus x1 minus x2 plus 1. Plus 1 doesn't make any difference because minimizing plus 1 makes no sense. It is just plus 1. Now, once you have an algebraic equation like this and you try to minimize it, okay, the minimum value of this expression is your answer to the optimization problem. If you see this plot here, the optimization, domain space, problem space is very cumbersome and complex like this. It is very difficult to find the optimum. Now, how quantum annealing quantum computers work is that the mathematical formulation of QUBO can be translated very easily into an energy formulation in a quantum annealing quantum computer, implemented by its magnetic field strengths, etc. And you can minimize the energy and in consequence get the minimum of the mathematical model. And that is your solution to the QUBO problem. And what is the PUBO problem? The PUBO problem is an extension of the QUBO problem where each term in the algebraic expression can have more than two variables. It can have n variables. Obviously, PUBO is a more powerful formalization and can be used for solving a lot more problems. And PUBO can be reduced to QUBO, which is algebraic expressions with two terms with some approximations. These both are related. So let's first jump to the first demo of the evening or the morning if you're in New York. Now I have a deterministic solver here, and I have a problem which is a QUBO problem. You can see here. I'm going to run this. The optimum solution is minus 4768728. Okay, and it is deterministic, so we need to get the optimum solution. Let's run it and see. I will explain you what it does. So let's just run it for now. I'm on purpose choosing small problems so that for time, but I will choose a large enough problem which cannot be solved on supercomputers also, right here in front of you. Now let's see here. We have 8 threads. This is the problem. The number of variables is 20. The number of terms, sorry for the misterm here, clauses. It is actually number of terms is 82. Now, this solver tries solving this problem in a very hyperdimensional energy space, and it tries combinations. If you see, all these problems that we are facing are because, and we cannot solve, which is P versus NP problem, is because the number of combinations will be infinite. It will be huge. Huge means even supercomputers can't solve it. And so if you can do these combinations somehow, you obviously can solve them in polynomial time. Now, in the first iteration, the solver achieved the global optimum. And in the second iteration, it again tried improving it, and it concluded it cannot surpass the best goal it had, and hence it ended. It printed the solution of 20 variables. Let me show you. Variable 1 is 0, variable 2 is 1, and so on till 20. And it printed the goal, which was the problem to your optimization formulation. And the time taken is 2 seconds. Obviously, this problem had 20 variables. But if you realize 2 to the power 50, which is the next problem I'm going to show, is unsolvable deterministically and classically. You have to understand, not by heuristics, by deterministic algorithms, classically, even on a supercomputer. I'm going to run this for you. This is a 50 variable problem and the optimum is minus 850.8161. Let us try this. It is going to run similarly and let us see if this works. Okay, now if you can see, the global optimum is 850 by 8161. Trust me, guys, 2 to the power 50 in a deterministic way is impossible to solve on a classical computer, even a supercomputer, the best ones we have. I will maximize this. Okay. Now, the number of variables is exactly 50, and the values of the variables correspond to the configuration that led to the global optimum. And that is, I'm sorry to say, quantum computing is not very flashy. There are not too many graphics or shining, buzzing, sound, audio, etc. And these are very boring models, etc. But now back to the presentation. Let's proceed. So I just showed you the Cubo and the Pubo solver. I didn't show you Pubo, but it's an extension the same way, and it doesn't make sense to just do multiple things of the same type. Now, what is the Ising problem? Now, on a quantum annealing quantum computer using a similar formulation, just like Cubo, with 2 variables in each term, instead of using variable values as 0 or 1, if the variables can have a value of +1 or -1, this corresponds to spins. So the spin can be up or down, +1 or -1. I'm not going to give you a deep dive into quantum computing, but that is it. If you formulate it as an Ising problem, then the variables can have a value of -1 or +1. So let's look at an Ising problem. Yes, this is an Ising problem. So, in the academia and research, everybody says, while you can probably, the first guy to solve the P versus NP problem will probably solve one problem. But what will really benefit mankind is something which is a class of algorithms that can solve a class of problems. And Automatsky can solve individual problems very easily. We can do a lot more of them. And for a lot of situations, we have a class of algorithms. So this is a class of algorithms. This is very powerful. So we're going to run an Ising problem, and the global optima is given here. I'm not going to harp about it. Let us run this just to show you that it can solve the Ising problem. Now the problem is, the solution is -41616855, and you can see the variable values here. Now, in one of the demos, somebody argued that you could have put a canned demo, you could be running a dummy wait loop, and you could be printing hard-coded values, etc. I'm sure somebody could do that. We are not doing it, and we can share. If you get in touch with us, we can share the problem definition with you over email. Now that was the Ising problem, which was the second demo of the day. Now, there is something called a QUZO and a PUZO problem. Now, I mean, people who are developing quantum annealing quantum computers will obviously try to maximize the kind of models they can work with, obviously, because each model can probably solve a lot more problems than the other models. So QUZO and PUZO are the same way. They are extensions of Cubo. So in QUZO, each term can have 2 variables, but the benefit is that these variables can have continuous values, and you can choose a range for them. Normally, you would normalize it to 0 and 1, but you can obviously choose a range between -20 to +20. It doesn't make any difference. It is, in mathematics, everything is normalized on a range between positive and negative, etc. And PUZO is a problem where you have terms with more than 2 variables, like n variables, and it is obviously powerful. So these variables have continuous values, also called as real numbers or double precision numbers. So let's try a QUZO problem. And so here again, I have a problem with a solution -507767171. Remember, mathematical precision will affect how close we come to the solution, but it will be the global optimum because it is deterministic. So within the bounds of mathematical precision, let's run this problem. it will take a whole lot more loops because it is a continuous variable problem, and this is the way our solver works. It is, and you can see that it has printed the goal. It is minus 5077.6647. It is differing in the second decimal place by 1, and whatever be it, see, when you have a mathematical algorithm that runs over iterations in high dimensional energy space, something called hyperdimensional computing or a variant of that, mathematical precision could be off by a few, and you could increase mathematical precision at the cost of computations to whatever 10, 15 decimal digits, but it doesn't make sense beyond a certain precision. That's it. I mean, it's a point of diminishing returns. You already know what is the global optimum like, and where is it in the solution space. Now, that was the third demo for today within the quantum annealing space. Now, professors like Eddie Farhi et al. Have been pioneering a different approach of optimization problems. This is called QAOA. QAOA basically means quantum approximate optimization algorithm. Now, QAOA is not run on a quantum annealing quantum computer. It is actually run on a circuit-based quantum computer using something called hybrid or variational algorithms. Now, that is how it is solved. But considering nobody has a quantum computer of any use, there are no solutions to real-world problems. Now, so basically, we are showing you a problem that is solved on a circuit-based quantum computer, but in essence is an energy minimization problem, and is exactly similar to the earlier algorithms I showed you. So how is QAOA implemented? You can implement something called the max cut problem. Let's say you have a graph. Okay, you have a graph. A graph is basically a lot of nodes connected to each other. Okay, now you have to cut the graph in two parts. So either a node will belong to part A, or either the node will belong to part B. You have to make that binary choice for every node, and that is the way a max cut problem is solved. Now, the logic is, whichever way you assign nodes to part A or part B, the number of overlapping edges from part A graph to part B subgraph have to be maximum. That is why it is called the maximum cut. The cut that maximizes the overlap, and that is the problem. So it's a maximization problem, but it is exactly the same as minimization. If you negate the goal, instead of minimize, you can minimize the negated goal and get a maximized optimum solution. I hope that is clear. Now, let us see a QAOA problem running. Now, I have a problem which has a solution 20, and let us run this. It runs exactly the same way. Like I said, it's a class of algorithms. If you ask Clay Math Institute, they will tell you the most valuable algorithms in the P to P versus NP solution will be algorithms that can solve a class of problems. So here again, it attempted 20 in the first round, and in the second round, it confirmed 20, and it ended now let me run 48. I might have to increase the precision, but let's run it. It should give me 47 or 48. Yes. So here in the first attempt itself, it got 48, and here is the values to the solution. Here -1 means part A, for example, and 1 means the node is in part B, or the A subgraph versus the B subgraph, and the overlapping edges between them are maximum. So let me minimize this. We are done with the first parts of the demos. Let's go back to the presentation. Now, obvious question is, how did we do all this? Now, obviously, you can't. These are combinatorial problems, and you can't do 2 to the power 20 in 5 seconds or something on a laptop with recording going on and a broadcast going on, etc. Now, people would not like to agree and believe this, but from a matter of factly point of view, I have to be consistent with what Automatsky has been stating all this while over the last 25 years. We have to state that our journey began by solving problems in complexity theory. We actually covered the journey from P is equal to hash P, which is the problem of counting number of solutions to a problem, to PP, which is a probabilistic solutions to a problem, APX complete, which is the approximation complete to solutions in polynomial time. Remember, if you remember the unique games conjecture and the approximation theorem, it says basically that problems are in the NP problems are in two parts. The first part can be approximated, but they can never be approximated to a perfect solution. And the second part of problems in NP are which cannot be approximated to any degree. So if you can approximate a solution, problems of part A to a perfect solution, or problems of part B, which cannot be approximated to any degree, you prove P is equal to NP. And that is how the proofs work. And so P is equal to NP is equal to NP complete is equal to NP hard is equal to P space. Now the first two lines in this diagram have been solved by us in 1990s and have been extensively verified by us within our organization. The third line, which says P is equal to exp time 2exp time exp space and decidable, has been solved by us in 1990s itself, but it is yet pending exhaustive verification of its worst case polynomial time attributes, and which we are working consistently on. We like to verify things before disclosing our solutions to the world. The last line, recognizable, is the trickiest of all. Recognizable problems are those problems which are undecidable, but recognizable on a Turing machine, which basically means that the Turing machine might not halt and might continue to infinity. And this is also known as the halting problem in a way. We haven't been able to solve this, and obviously we have not verified it. But this is our journey. This forms the basis of all the breakthroughs that we have delivered. And a lot of experts who understand, who will reverse infer from our solutions and results that this must have been true. Otherwise, we wouldn't have succeeded with those results. And let's begin with the second part of the demo. Now, our primary demo today was a circuit and gate-based quantum computer, which is the world's first with billions of logical qubits and circuits, and gates. Sorry, I fumbled. I'm sorry. Now, before I go to the first demo in the second half, let me tell you something. There is something called the extended Church-Turing thesis. Why is this important? The extended Church-Turing thesis, and bear with me, try to focus on the explanation. It's quite convoluted, but the extended Church-Turing thesis basically says that all physical processes in the universe, including quantum computers, can be simulated on a Turing machine or basically a laptop or a classical computer. Now, quantum computing experts claim that quantum computers cannot be simulated using classical computers or Turing machines, and that they violate the Church-Turing thesis. Now, what we present before you in the next couple of demos is a circular triple proof. The way this proof works is this. We have proven the Church-Turing thesis and implemented a billion plus qubit quantum computer over classical computational infrastructure. And by simulating a quantum computer's physics classically, we can consequently simulate the universe, which is a logical conclusion. And again, we can assert that we have hence proven the Church-Turing thesis. So it's like a triangular proof which proves each other consequently. And this is everything you could ever want from quantum computing. It is proven and executes perfectly. And let's see it work. Now, the bottom line is this. We have a billion plus logic qubit and gate circuit quantum-based quantum computer. It is an order n quantum computer. And you're going to see how fast it is. No beating around the bush. Let's go to the first problem demo. Now, a lot of you might not have a background in quantum computing. I don't know. So the first problem obviously has to be the one where I explain what is happening. So in this problem, we are going to see some source code, which will be a quantum program, which will run on the world's most powerful quantum computer. It will use two kinds of gates called Hadamard and CNOT gates. Okay. Now, I will explain the program to you and how a quantum program works. Let's have a look. Okay. Okay. Now, there is nothing to hide in this program. It is a quantum program. If you can name any vendor with 50 qubit quantum computers, basically the toys, they have a Python dialect, etc., or an API by which you can program their quantum computer. And that dialect, whether it is vendor A or vendor B, will be almost exactly the same. You can translate my program into their programs and their programs into this program. It is almost literally similar except for the terms and the naming conventions, etc. So how do you program a quantum computer? First, you have to decide on the number of qubits you are going to use. In this case, we are going to use 2 qubits. So we have to initialize those qubits, right? How do you initialize the qubits? You initialize almost every quantum program will initialize the qubits to state 0 because it is the easiest to initialize rather than initializing it in some complicated superposition state, etc. Okay. Next, what happens is I do something called mesh. This is basically a perfect quantum computer and it has n by n connectivity, and I'm entangling all the qubits. Entangling is a concept used in quantum computing where each qubit affects every other qubit. Now, next, what I have is I have a Pauli's X gate. This is also called a NOT gate. Okay. And I pass the first qubit. The qubits are numbered from a zero base indexing. So qubit 0, which is the first qubit, to this gate, and this gate will not its state, invert its state. And then I pass it to a second gate. I pass all the qubits, which is both the qubits, to a second gate, which is a conditional NOT gate. The way it works is if the first qubit is set, it will invert the second qubit. That is a controlled NOT gate, a conditional NOT gate. At the end of every quantum program, you have to measure the qubits. You will never get an accurate result in one run. You have to run it a million times. Most quantum computers run it 1024 times. If you go to any vendor, they will by default run it 1024 times. We will run it a million times because we are faster and we can afford to. And probably it'll give us a better statistical property about the results. Now, once you measure the qubits a million times, you can plot a sort of a statistical histogram. So which result is the most probable result will be at the top and is probably our answer we were looking for. Otherwise we can look at the second result or the third result. Now in this problem, the answer is 1, 1. Both the qubits will be 1 and 1. And that is the answer. Let us run this quantum program. Okay. The initialization of the quantum computer will take around 7 seconds. I have encoders running on this laptop. It will be really slow. I'm sorry, but the claim is factually correct. It will be around, and here you go. We have a histogram, 99.321%. I'm rounding down the percentages so that it's easier to read on a histogram. Okay. 99.321%, it is 1 and 1. 0.34, which is a negligible result due to various interference, etc. in quantum physics. The second best answer is 0, 1. Third best is 1, 0. And the fourth best is 0, 0. But our correct answer with 99.3% probability is 1 and 1. And the total time taken is 9 seconds. This is how a quantum program works. Now let's try to prove what we are showing you. Okay. Now, if this computer can run a lot of qubits, obviously, we should try the scale. How will we try the scale? We will create a circuit with, let's say, 10,000 qubits right here in front of you, and we will run n random gates on it. Okay, some gate. The exact logic of the quantum program doesn't matter, because we are testing if the quantum computer can do 10,000 qubits in linear time, and that is what we are going to test. So instead of focusing on the program, let's test it for 10,000 qubits, and probably we can interpolate the timing from there. Nobody in the world has done more than 53 qubits till date, and we are going to try 10,000 right here in front of you. Let's try. Let me, again, I'm not hiding anything in the program. The number of qubits is 10,000, and I will initialize 10,000 qubits just like the earlier time, and I will use a random number to apply gates, print the status of how I'm progressing by applying gates, and then measure the histogram of the results and get the statistical answer. And that is exactly how all quantum programs work. So let's run this. It will take around, I can keep the quantum computer running, so I don't have to wait for 7-10 seconds each time. That was fast. That was fast. And here is the solution. Now, the solution has 0.1%, because see, if you run a random garbage, the answer will be statistically random garbage. Okay. I mean, you will not have a very prominent solution peeking out of and separate from every other probability. So, but whatever be it, statistically, these are the most probable, I think, 8 or 10 answers. Now, if I scroll lock, sorry, I was not supposed to scroll lock. Sorry, I fumbled. If I do a word wrap, I can scroll down and see these are exactly 10,000 qubits being shown here, and that is the right answer. Okay, let's move on to something else, something more interesting. Now, why did I take this problem? Okay, I will not explain this problem. I'll tell you the mistake in this problem. This problem was created as a demo by some blogger, okay? And he ran it on an actual hardware-based quantum computer and sampled the solution 1024 times, okay? And he himself said he got the wrong answer. He got 4 prominent probabilities, but the right answer were just 2 prominent probabilities. So this is a way to see that the current hardware implementations, even with 50 qubits, are highly erroneous. So let's run this problem on our quantum computer, which is near perfect to system precision. Let's try that. So I'm running this problem. Okay, and the answer should be 100 and 110. And let's see, there are 3 qubits. I'm applying the same gates. I have the same circuit. Basically, I translated that circuit into this. Okay, so let's run it. There is nothing hanky-panky here. It is running in front of you, and we can run any quantum algorithm. Give it some time. Now, maybe from the next time, I should choose a faster. Okay. Now with 62% probability, 100 is the right answer. With 32% probability, 110 is the second best answer. And then obviously you have other probabilities and nothing beyond 4 in the histogram, 4 items in the histogram. But now I will show you something which is a more precise test of the accuracy of a quantum computer. Now you have to realize that every quantum vendor will test and benchmark his quantum computer with a benchmark of algorithms. Now the problem is, when you create this benchmark, you should know the solution to those algorithms, to those quantum programs, which is okay if you have 20 qubits. But the moment you have 10,000, 1 million qubits, You need to use special kind of algorithms where you know the answer so that you can verify the answer. And that is a great way of benchmarking your quantum algorithm, even in your labs, every time you make changes to the API, software, hardware, etc. So now let's look at one of those benchmark problems. This is called a generic Oracle problem. Oracle-based problems or oracular problems are one of the most famous algorithms used in quantum programs. Now, what is an oracle? Now you see this black box here. This is the oracle and it is disclosed here on the right hand side, okay, for you. This black box has this inside, okay. Now, what is an oracle? An oracle is a special kind of a concept especially used in quantum computing, where the only thing an oracle can do is, if you ask it, is your secret one or some value, it can only respond in yes or no. And just by using that oracle, you have to build your quantum program around it such that you can discover the secret that the whole oracle is holding. And this secret can be anything from an AES key, cryptographic key, or the applications are immense. Now, this algorithm is also demonstrating something called a phase kickback, which is used inside the oracle. Phase kickback is used in literally every quantum program in the world. I will tell you what that means. Here we are using 5 qubits. The first 4 qubits are the regular qubits, and the 5th qubit is a temporary qubit. Inside the oracle, each of the regular qubits one by one will try to change the temporary qubit, but the temporary qubit will kick back and reverse change the original qubit. This kickback is called a phase kickback. Okay, so that is what we are going to see. We are going to see an oracular algorithm. We are going to run 3 test cases where the secret is 1, 3, and 14. 1 in bits means 1, 3 in bits means 1, 1, and 14 in bits means 1, 1, 1, 0. This is the most accurate way of testing your quantum computers. Okay, and these 2 things are used in every quantum algorithm in the world, every, without exceptions. So this is one of the most important things to test. So here, let me again, there is nothing to hide. Here I am setting the secret. Okay, for the first run, let me set it to 1. Okay, now the number of qubits, the regular qubits is 4, and I will initialize a temporary qubit. I will create the gates and the circuit. I will implement the oracle. Now there is nothing hanky panky going on here. This is an actual quantum program running on an actual quantum computer, and then we will measure it a million times, and that is what it is. So the answer, since the secret is 1, and if my quantum computer is accurate and the most accurate quantum computer ever, it should give me the right answer for any size of these secrets. Okay, where the secret could be 10,000, 1 million qubits, etc. Now let's run this. Okay, with 99.6445% probability, the answer is 1, and the other answer is with negligible probability. So we got the right answer. Let's try this with 3. Because your program has to be generic, you should be able to test it with any secrets, any oracular secrets. So let us run this program. With 94.65% accuracy, the answer is 1 and 1. And the other probabilities are, well, negligible compared to this. Let's try 14. The answer should be 1110 if this is the correct answer. There is nothing, this is not hard coded. This is an exact algorithm that is running. And with 89.86% probability, the answer is 1110. And that is the correct answer. Now, now remember, everybody says, is this a simulator? Now, I'll give you no. Remember, I told you if you're implementing the mathematics of quantum computing, what you have is a simulator. If you're implementing the quantum physics in hardware or software, it is a quantum computer. Now, the way quantum simulators in the world today work is they pass all combination of qubit states through each quantum gate. They give perfect answers. See here, this is what a simulator would give. On the right hand side, you can see the answer is 1110 when sampled 1024 times, each of the 1024 times. When we implement physics, not Automatsky implements quantum physics and not the simulated maths of quantum computations. And the reason number two is I showed you 10,000 qubits. The biggest quantum simulator cannot do more than 50 qubits even on the biggest supercomputers in the world. We already showed you 10,000 qubits. And by the way, 4,100 qubits is enough to crack RSA 2048 cryptography. What we showed you is the most scientific definition of a quantum computer. Now, the same program, just to show you, was converted into a program on a different vendor's quantum computer. And we ran it on a simulator on that vendor's offering. And the answer was 1110 with 1024 samples, each of those 1024 samples, where the secret was 14. Look at the histogram of results of our computer. It was 89.9. Obviously, this time it varied, but it is probabilistic. So 89.9%, 1110. And you see these other answers. This is because of quantum physics. This is not because of mathematics. This is because of quantum physics. That is why you get answers like this. That's why I'm saying this is a quantum computer in the strictest definition of a quantum physics quantum computer definition. Now, the last demo in our presentation today is a quantum supremacy claim by a challenger. Remember, I told you that in 2014, we had a quantum computer with millions of qubits, which was a universal quantum computer, which could solve any algorithm, which by definition meant we had achieved quantum supremacy in 2014. But in 2019, there was a challenger which actually implemented a problem called random circuit sampling with 1,113 single qubit gates and 430 double qubit gates, as mentioned in their research paper. And they said they took 200 seconds in 2019. And they also said that the biggest supercomputer in the world will take 10,000 years to solve the same random sampling problem. Now, this was counter challenged by yet another vendor who said that the supercomputer can use the hard disk instead of RAM, basically storage instead of RAM, and do the same problem in 2.5 days. But the second challenger vendor, who was just contradicting the claim, could not show any proof or demos to that effect. So the primary claim by the primary challenger was that they can do random circuit sampling in 200 seconds. We are going to run it in front of you in 10 seconds. But before that, let's understand what is random circuit sampling. Like the name says, random circuit sampling on a 53 qubit quantum computer basically means you initialize 53 qubits and make them pass through a random set of single qubit and double qubit gates, various kinds of gates. And in the end, you measure the results and you get the statistically reliable, verifiable results of the problem at hand, which is random circuit sampling. So there is, sorry, I misworded it. You can't verify it. I mean, you get a statistically significant result. There is no sort of verification as such. Okay, so you get a statistically significant result, and these random circuit problems have absolutely no use in real world scenario. They are completely useless. They were used as argument to prove a quantum supremacy claim 5 years after Automatsky. Now let's see this running right now. Okay. Now here I have a program and I'm initializing 53 qubits. I could have done 10,000 qubits. It doesn't matter. But I'm replicating the same experiment as the challenger in 2019. Okay. Now I have a lot of gates, etc. And this circuit, I'm just going to scroll down, is 6,250 lines long. It is going to show a progress as it executes single and double qubit gates, and it is going to do 1,000,000 measurements in the end. Let's run this on the clock. Remember, I'm running encoders, recorders. So my computer is going to be really slow in responding, but let's just run it. Here is the quantum supremacy counterclaim from Automatsky, which we achieved in 2014, responding to the challenger, which claimed this in 2019. Okay, here, measuring is taking time. So, okay, let's see. You see this log here. It is executing one gate at a time and incrementing the status update. And the quantum computer took 7 seconds to initialize, 3 seconds to execute, and beyond that, it required some more time to measure the results. You see the results here with it is random circuit sampling. So, I mean, you are doing some random rubbish, right? And this problem has no real world value. But if you're doing random rubbish, you are not going to get a solution which stands out from the rest of the statistical population. So the best answer is 0.003% of this answer. This is exactly 53 qubits, debunking the challenge claim by the challenger in 2019. Okay. Now, I hope you enjoyed it, but for the sake of completeness, we have to explain the tech specs and features. So give us a few more slides to explain the same. Now, what we showed you was with billions of logical qubits and gates. Remember, people are planning on correcting errors in their erroneous quantum computers by implementing each logical qubit uh, alongside 10,000 or 100,000 physical qubits. And logical qubits are going to be the capacity of the program. So if you have 100 logical qubits, your program can have 100 variables, but each logical qubit will require 100,000 physical qubits to implement. So in a sense, your quantum computer is going to have probably 10 million qubits, physical qubits. Here, all the qubits we have are logical qubits and billions of them. And theoretically, there is no limit. If you are willing to wait that much, it can be pushed to trillions of logical qubits and gates. Now, the way our quantum computer works is that it supports all arbitrary and native 1 qubit, 2 qubit, and 3 qubit gates. What do you mean by arbitrary? You can design any gate and run it on my quantum computer natively. And you don't need to compose a 3 qubit gate from smaller gates. If you want to compose a larger 10 qubit gate, yes, go ahead. But for 1, 2, and 3 qubit gates, you don't need to compose it from smaller gates. They are supported natively with arbitrary configurations and quantum specifications. The minimum gate fidelity is 99.977% based on our benchmarks, and the maximum fidelity is in 10 to 15 decimal places, which means 99.999999999 and so on and so forth. Now, it supports all quantum computing algorithms without any exceptions, including variational algorithms, including hybrid algorithms, every quantum algorithm you have ever heard of or can ever make. It is going to be delivered as a JSON API with documentation with Java and Python bindings, other bindings available on request. We will have an importer from OpenQASM, which is a kind of a quantum programming, language, which is a very fundamental representation of quantum programs. We are going to have importers from various, programming languages into this dialect. Now, whenever people talk about quantum computers, okay, they talk about something called coherence time. What is coherence time? Every quantum computing vendor will tell you that their coherence time is, the 50 qubit quantum computers, right? The coherence time is 50 microseconds. And in ion-based quantum computers, I think it is 28 seconds. I mean, you can check it online. It should be around that. Now, what is coherence time? Coherence time, it is kind of a probabilistic inverse exponential, uh, the representation which says that the state will decay out of its state. So before the quantum computer loses coherence and becomes decoherent, you have to complete your entire circuit. Otherwise, you'll get garbage answers. And different quantum computing vendors will give you different coherence time measured in terms of T1 and T2, which will be 50 microseconds, 38 or microseconds or whatever. And in our quantum computer, the T1 and T2, basically the coherence time is infinity. The state doesn't decay at all. And remember, in all the current quantum computers with 50 qubits or whatever, each qubit is connected to 6 other qubits. Now, for a universal quantum computer, you should be able to run any program without resorting to compiler tricks, etc., like swapping, etc., which don't work at all, which are erroneous. Now, you require, basically what I'm saying is you require full n by n connectivity. But in 3D physical space, and full n by n connectivity at scale is impossible. Now, what we are showing you is a quantum computer which is a universal quantum computer with full n by n connectivity with error corrected logical qubits tested, benchmarked and proven. And this is exactly the way our universe works. This is the algorithm of the universe. Now, I will restate it again. Our quantum computer implements physics and not the mathematics of quantum computing. It is theoretically perfect as far as quantum physics is perfect. Hence, is not a simulator. Now, obviously, see, people can pester you a lot. Yes, if that is the only thing on your mind, yes, it can break RSA 2048 or even RSA 1 million any day without sweat, since it was built in 2014. But I'm sure you have to be a government or somebody to do it, because otherwise it is illegal and you're going to go to jail. And that is the only reason we don't do it and we don't show it to people. Our quantum computer is going to be delivered as a service hosted in our data centers, available on a yearly subscription with included email support, etc. Now, one circuit-based quantum computer can support 200 to 400 concurrent computer programs or users. But one quantum annealing deterministic solver can only support one concurrent program execution or user. It costs what it costs. These things are not cheap. The costs are prohibitive. Somebody said it would cost billions of dollars, not that much, but the costs are prohibitive. There is a vendor who is selling a shared supercomputer based 50 qubit simulator for $1 million per annum subscription. There is another vendor which is selling a 2000 qubit quantum annealing quantum computer, which is equivalent to 65 qubits universal quantum computing based on some research papers, which costs around $15 million plus whatever expenses, support, etc., consulting, advisory, etc. The 50 qubit circuit based quantum computers cost between around $25 million on the market, but they are delivered as a shared service over a cloud. But if they agree to sell it to you, that will 50 qubits will cost you around $25 million. Now, our quantum computer is built to order. The lead time is 6 to 10 months. Provisioning time would reduce to 15 days by 2021 AD, when we cross more than 1,000 customers or 1,000 instances of quantum computers in our quantum computing data centers. Now, there is a joke, like I said, people can be harsh. I mean, we've been put through a lot. People tell us, okay, if you can do all this, why don't you break all the Bitcoin wallets and steal all the Bitcoins and become a multi-billionaire? My dear friend, it is illegal. We don't want to end up in jail. It is illegal. And because that is illegal, if a government wants to do it, probably they can do it and get away with it. But we can't. We are a private firm. We cannot do anything illegal. But we will tell you that our quantum computer can do any quantum program perfectly. We are not going to directly support anybody who is attempting such things. It is what you do is your business and your legal liability. Now, we offer a couple of services. like training and education, consulting and advisory. We offer research partnerships, application engineering, and see, most companies in the world, which are our prospective customers, don't even know how to get started with quantum computing. For those customers, we offer ab initio, which is a scientific term for meaning from scratch, setting up of a quantum computing team, training them, advising them, consulting for them, establishing their research, and helping them with application development, R&D, engineering setup, the usual build, operate, transfer service. And that is what we are providing. So if you want the world's most powerful quantum computer, you have come to the right place, and you are going to get all your needs met by Automatsky. Now, for those who are uninitiated to quantum computing and just attended or are just viewing this because of the hype of quantum computing, uh, there was a paper from, I think it was I forgot. It was a recent paper which gave this graph that finance has the biggest, most applications of quantum computing, followed by energy, material sciences, advanced industries, pharma, medical products, telecom, media, technology, social sector, public sector, healthcare, travel, transport, logistics, insurance, consumer goods, etc. Consumer goods was probably the last with the amount of impact by quantum computers. Now, Gartner published a diagram a whole lot of time ago, which tells you how quantum computers, help you with what kind of problems: light harvesting, climate, chemistry, biomolecules, pharma, bioinformatics, protein folding, constraint solving, optimization, route planning, scheduling, autonomous vehicles, code breaking, cryptography, linear algebra, encryption, etc., etc. Now, if you want a list of applications per se, here is a list of some applications. You can get in touch with us. We'll share the details with you. Now, a special note about defense applications. Now, you can actually use, in today's world, no countries are going to go to war. They are not going to have a conventional war. At max, they can have a skirmish or a tactical battle. But it is not going to be a war in all probability, because otherwise it will end up being a world war. If it happens, it will be a world war. Now, what will happen is that every country is already doing and will fight with each other in the cyber warfare space. And remember, quantum computers help you break cryptography. You can literally walk in and out of the systems through the main door. You don't need to try stupid hacks or something. You can literally open up the cryptography and intercept and inject and walk into systems. You can do a lot of things in the space of defense. You can compromise the enemy's detection systems, which is basically disabling radar networks, rendering them blind. You can compromise, disrupt, or intercept their communication systems, communications and networks. You can disrupt their infrastructure, compromise their power generation, water, internet, utilities, power grid, transportation, etc. You can destroy their response systems, which is basically compromising and disabling their response systems like missile systems, command and control systems, etc. Now, there is a very strong disclaimer. We don't do all this. Any quantum computer can, production grade quantum computer can do all this. We are not a government agency. We do not run such operations. We just build products and solutions like quantum computers, amongst a lot of other things which can be used for anything that quantum computers can be used for. The second use case I want to tell you is about COVID-19 or the coronavirus cure. Now, people type anything on blogs and journals that somebody has a cure, there are 200 vaccines being developed, etc. Ask somebody from the pharma industry, they will tell you creating a drug takes $2.6 billion and 15 years. We still don't have a cure for the SARS virus in the last 20 years. I think SARS came out of a certain country in 2002 or 3. Now, to understand how do you create a drug, you have to understand that there are 4 ways to create a coronavirus vaccine. The first way is what pharma companies do, which is create molecules in labs and test them for effectiveness in a cure. This is a long drawn process, and this is where it takes 15 years. The success rate is infinitesimally small. Then there are what big firms are doing with supercomputers simulating molecules. Now, the problem is they can only simulate molecules with 50 or 100 electrons, not more than that. And a real virus has more than 2000 electrons. What AI firms are doing with filtering molecules from their raw molecule databases. So what AI companies are doing is they are starting with a lot of raw molecule databases and checking their interaction with the virus and filtering down to get something that may work in some probability. Then there are researchers that are doing drug design and discovery with quantum computers. Now, obviously, the current researchers are doing this theoretically because nobody has a quantum computer outside Automatsky anyway, any production grade quantum computer outside Automatsky anyway. Now, a word about drug discovery versus drug design. When you start with a lot of raw molecules and check its interactions and combinations of molecules, interactions, etc., it is called discovering a drug. But quantum computers can actually simulate quantum physics and quantum chemistry. What this means is if you give a virus definition to a quantum computer, it can reverse infer. And if you tell it that it can use nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen molecules, it can create a molecule from scratch which will kill the virus in all probability. Now, there is no guarantee with any of the first three methods. Only quantum computers offer a guarantee of putting a proven drug in production in under 4 to 6 months, excluding clinical trial, as fast as you can accelerate the clinical trials on top of these 4 to 6 months. Now, there are more than 8,000 diseases and conditions we can create a cure for using quantum computers and no other way. Now, what are the important areas in this entire gamut of quantum computing? Obviously, there's quantum computing. You have to know machine learning, deep learning, and AI. You have to learn combinations of above, like quantum machine learning, quantum deep learning, and quantum AI. And you have to know and use things like hybrid quantum plus classical algorithms, variational algorithms, quantum walks, and quantum simulations. Now, one word about quantum simulations. In quantum simulations, you basically try to simulate something called bosons and fermions. Fermions have a sign problem and bosons have a qubit representation problem. Both these problems have been solved at Automatsky, and you can actually conduct large-scale quantum simulations using the Automatsky's quantum computer. Now, the last slide is basically that you take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. See, beyond a certain stage, nobody can convince anyone in this world. You are going to decide what you want to believe. This was our only attempt at convincing you and showcasing and demoing what we have to offer the entire world today for the first time in the history of mankind publicly being announced and demonstrated. But beyond a certain point, it's your choice. It's a free world. Thank you so much. In the time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act, and a lot of people don't like it. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. I open the floor up for free Q&A. I will promise you I will not evade any question. If I can't answer it, I will get in touch with you and answer it for you offline. And basically, type your LinkedIn profile on the chat if you want to ask a question. I will add you on LinkedIn. Please add me back. That is the protocol. Please understand. And then you are free to ask your questions. Thank you so much. Any questions? By the way, thank you guys for attending. Like I said, there is only so much somebody can do to convince anyone. It's a free world. Everybody makes their own mind. We've been saying this for a long time. And I mean, you're obviously free to buy anything in the world from any vendor, obviously, right? We are not We are not trying to, pressurize anything on you. It's a free world. There are more than 200 quantum computing companies offering consulting, advisory, POCs, pilots, etc. So, but all in all, thank you so much for attending. I appreciate you guys taking the time out and your valuable time out, in the morning EST when you woke up at 9 a.m. and from guys from other parts of the world, from Singapore, India, Dubai, the Asia Pac region, EU, etc. And for all those guys who will be seeing this recording, we are sending this recording to more than 5,000 people over our networks publicly for the first time, because the board of directors of Automatsky has decided to go public with this invention of ours for the first time this week. So we tried doing a YouTube live demo, but I somehow could not run a double encoder and recorder, the third recorder also. So I'm sorry, but we'll post it on YouTube. You can search for it. The title of the YouTube video will be the same as the title of today's presentation. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions. So if you don't have any questions, I can end the call. I'm giving you my email address. Please contact Tegan at automatsky.com. Tegan and Madeline are my research assistants. They are PhDs and postdoctoral fellows. They are not marketing and sales people. If you talk to them about quantum computing, they will immediately understand the complexities of the problem you are facing and the kind of answers it warrants. So we are not going to put you in touch with some sales guy or some business development guy or some maintenance and support or lead generation guy. Tegan is a researcher at Automatsky, and so is Madeline. Please get in touch with them. Their email ID is tegan at automatsky.com. I have pasted it on chat. Thank you. I don't see any questions. Thank you for attending. I'm ending the webinar. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day.